You probably know marketing, and you probably know when people say, well, marketing, in contrast to sales, we never really know, is it worth spending the money on that one? And we have an expert on the matter on how to actually grow your business with marketing here today. Hello and welcome, Rich Smith.
Hey, great to see you and nice to be here.
Thank you very much for taking the time. So, when you got in touch, I of course looked at your LinkedIn. I mean, you worked in the most competitive industries, from being in VP positions where you had to design the product to a CMO positions, board level positions in marketing. With your experience of more than 25 years, especially as a CMO, what do you think are the growth strategies, and what is it that many companies miss when they do marketing and they say, oh, we do posters here and ads there, but we don't really know if it works? What do you think are the keys to actually align your growth goals with your marketing goals?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it is something, that I see quite often where, I'll be speaking with a CEO or a company about their marketing, and they'll ask me questions like, "Well, should we be on Facebook, or should we
Yeah.
be posting more to LinkedIn, or should we go to this trade show, or should we, use Google search or invest more in SEO?" And th my answer is always, "Well, maybe." Right? It just tell me what your strategy is. Tell me who your target customer is. Tell me when and where they make buying decisions, and I'll tell you if those are the right tactics or not. But everyone wants to jump to tactics and skip strategy and
Mm-hmm.
skip gathering insights on your customers and your company and your competition and all of that kind of core foundational information that's necessary to create good strategy.
Hmm.
So if I had to pick one like really common thing, that would be it.
Excellent. What are the most common mistakes if someone would ask you for the like top three mistakes that companies do regarding marketing that's probably then not working?
Yeah, I mean, one is thinking of marketing as Marcom or like marketing communications. I think a lot of companies think marketing is just, creating trade show booths and pretty pictures and brochures and material to hand
Mm-hmm.
out and managing the website, as opposed to thinking of marketing as really the partner with sales.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see that the best organizations that manage their funnels really well tend to view marketing and sales as, intertwined. And one doesn't end when the other one begins, right? And so marketing's job may be to bring in create interest, awareness, bring in qualified leads and get them to the point where a salesperson can pick them up.
Mm.
But the job doesn't end there, right? Unless you have a very, very short sales cycle, which most, B2B companies don't. You've got to work that lead through all of the process down to, finally get into a
Yeah.
contract.
Yeah, excellent. So, and when we talk about data-driven marketing decisions, so probably when people say marketing is more than just posters and brochures and maybe get a nice booth out there when you have an expo or go to a trade show, what do you think are the specific metrics that, for example, CEOs or executives should focus on, especially keeping in mind that they usually say, look, marketing metrics is not really my focus of the business and daily work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's a mistake that a lot of senior marketers or VPs in marketing make is going to the CEO with what I would call vanity metrics. Well, we
Hmm.
picked up this many likes. We have this many followers. We have this many subscribers to our
Very common.
podcast or YouTube
Yeah.
channel, or this many page visits, or well, while that's interesting, and many CEOs will kind of understand that growth and volume in those areas is likely to be a good thing, it doesn't really drive the business.
Hmm.
And the CEO is going to care about metrics that drive the business. So things like cost per account, acquisition cost. What's your retention? What's your churn? What's your average customer value, ACV or LTV, or people use different acronyms for it. But let's get into the things that really matter, that drive the business, and it's a little bit different for every company, right? But what are the metrics that get close enough to understanding revenue and profitability? And those are the ones that you really should be measuring. And if you want to be a senior marketer, one of the things that I've learned is don't use marketing speak with your
Hmm.
CEO. right? You translate marketing speak into business speak and speak like a
Mm.
business executive and a business owner to the CEO. That they will understand and appreciate, and that will open up the opportunity for you to, expand what you're doing in the marketing realm.
Excellent. I think this is great advice here. When you now see companies talking about something like customer centricity, and people think we probably like to have some sort of framework, any kind of orientation, instead of just doing something and trying to hope that it somehow magically works. So, are there any frameworks you could recommend to build customer centric growth strategies?
Yeah, I mean, one just starts with your brand position or your messaging and how you're positioning your company, products, or services. And yeah, I think that's again something that a lot of people gloss over and don't really think through carefully. But it is really the foundation of being customer centric is
Hmm.
taking the time to understand, okay, who is your buyer? And when I say who, like, how do we describe them? Like, if you're B2B, what role, what company, what industry, who is the buyer? In B2C world, you would define it by consumer segments and a little bit different, but same concept. And really you've got to get to what is what is driving the buying decision. And in many cases, even doing surveys is helpful or focus groups is helpful, but not enough because when you ask people about, your product or service, they're likely to tell you things like that they like, want, or need.
Mm.
And it's not that those are unimportant, but they're not really the drivers of decision making.
Hmm.
Drivers of decision making are more fears and pains. So, you really have to dig into, okay, well, in my particular buyer buying segment, what is the pain or fear that they're experiencing that our product or service can resolve?
Mm.
And you start with that. And you've got to come up with superlatives to describe what you do. And by superlatives, I mean, you know, first, best, fastest, cheapest, only. Those really matter. And a lot of people I talk to will say to me, "Well, how can we say we're in the best in the world at whatever?" And my answer is always, "Well, that depends on how you define your world." Right? If you're a coffee shop in Manhattan, being the best in the world might mean, being the best coffee on that particular block in
Hmm.
Manhattan, right?
Yeah.
That block is the entire world
Yeah.
to you. So and I yet to find an organization or a company that can't do this. You just have to be creative with how you think about the box that you're playing in, or what I call your world, and find what you're the best at, or the
Mm.
only, or the fastest, or the cheapest. Right? If you can't use a superlative, go back to the drawing board and start over.
Yeah, excellent. Very good. So when you now, I mean, you really build successful marketing teams, and these teams really perform. I do background check every single guest I have here. So very impressive CV, very impressive deliveries here. What do you think? Because many marketing companies, especially today, struggle to keep people on board, onboard them, keep them for a while. Often people say they take marketing as the first step into the organization, then they basically jump somewhere else, either due to money or due to career options. What are the leadership principles you would say what kind of structures do you have to offer that are essential for scaling marketing performance in a complex organization and keeping people on board and, of course, attracting the best talent?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I've used for, helping to manage the teams that I've grown, built, or been handed in some cases, is just to make sure that you're putting your people in positions where they can learn something,
Hmm.
where they're expanding their knowledge base, and you're pushing them to do better work and get out of their comfort zone. And that's when I think your team is going to be the most happy, the most productive and engaged. You also have to spend the time to make sure they understand who you are as an organization, why you're doing what you're doing. Because people, yes, money and recognition is great, but people really work for purpose and
Yeah.
meaning. And you got to create that sense of, hey, this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is the purpose. This is the meaning behind it. And here's what you're going to learn personally, right, to expand your knowledge, expand your skills, if you attach to this purpose or this mission.
Mm.
And that to me, again, that sounds kind of simple and obvious. It's not.
It's
It's a
definitely
lot more
not simple. When
challenging.
we look on
But
one look on Glassdoor.com and it's not simple. It's
no,
definitely not simple. Otherwise,
it's not.
Glassdoor would look a lot different and probably wouldn't even exist. So,
Yeah, good
yeah,
point.
yeah, absolutely. So when you now look ahead, 5 years, 10 years, marketing, because one aspect just happened rather recently, at least on a broader scale, the role of the chief marketing officer in context of AI. When you look at the old profiles of people doing Photoshop, doing graphic design, whatever, now they say, look, AI is doing quite a number of writing scripts, creating pictures, AI automation, advanced analytics, all of that. What do you think is going to be the role of a chief marketing officer evolving in context of AI as one of the last questions of this interview?
Yeah, I think the role of the CMO with respect to AI, and I kind of break down it into two categories. There's AI adoption, which is usually people mean tools, processes, new software packages, things that are going to generate images and copy and do copy reviews and those kinds of generative tools. That's what most people mean. But there's also AI adaptation. And that is the job of the CMO to adapt their go-to-market to the new world that AI has created for their buyers.
Hmm.
A shining example of that is AI search. So AI search is a game changer. People are, and overnight, the Google search traffic for just regular search terms has decreased dramatically because people are using even the AI built into Chrome or built into Google, or they're using the search engine like Perplexity and
Hmm.
others like that. And that's what they're using to find products, to do research on services, and they're not going to the regular channel. So that's just one example of a new world or change in dramatic change in buyer behavior that CMOs need to be ahead of.
Hmm.
And so the tools are one thing. Yes, important. You can get more efficient with the tools, but not adapting to the changes that buyers are experiencing with the advent of AI platforms, that's existential. Like that will kill you eventually if you
Yeah,
don't do that,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, perfect. And of course, when now people say, I have one more last question. When people now say, hey, I think which could be really helpful, either, for example, as a conference speaker when we have our meeting, or as a consultant mentor, or in any other role for workshops, are there any resources you can offer people? And of course, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the easiest way to get in touch with me is to go to my website. It's richmsmith.com. And I also host a podcast myself called Revenue Science. So you can find that on all of the major podcast outlets. And yeah, that's the easiest way. There's a contact form in there. You can get in touch with me that way and be happy to, engage with any of your listeners who are interested.
Brilliant. I think these are the perfect final words. We see marketing is strongly evolving, changing all the time. And we had an expert with us here today, Rich Smith. Thank you very much for your time.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.